Good morning. Today we're going to talk about organizing for some difficult times. This presentation is done on behalf of Steel Valley Authority and the Layoff Aversion Program entitled Strategic Early Warning Network, or SOAN, as most people refer to us. The SOAN program has been in existence for 25 years. It's proven to be immensely successful, and we've worked with over 1,200 companies. We've saved over 30,000 jobs since the beginning. Our federal funding is derived from the WIOA Act, and it's passed down through the PA Department of Labor and Industry. Thus, the services we provide to manufacturing companies come at no charge. My name is Gary Wickham. I'm the Regional Director for Northeast Pennsylvania for SOAN. Okay, what do we mean by difficult times? Basically, this is a downward shift in business, and that can come about in a number of ways. For example, a major customer that accounts for a substantial portion of your business may themselves have trouble or simply decide to go to another supplier. A more general condition of a recession causing a drop in orders. Perhaps your competition may have changed somehow. Or there may have been technological changes in the way the product is produced and you haven't caught up yet. When difficult times inevitably arrive, we often hear terms like batten down the hatches or all hands on deck. These sound good, meant to instill in employees the gravity of the situation, need for everyone to pull together. While they can be useful to get everyone's attention, they certainly may mask the need for a serious review of the organization. In this presentation, we're going to look at three elements of company organization and look at some examples as to whether any changes might have been necessary. The examples we used are SOAN, not necessarily Northeast, and even one is not even SOAN, but they serve to point out what we're talking about. Certainly in a downward change, there's a need to evaluate the current employee headcount and realign that number in line with the reduction in business. Here, however, we're going to discuss what everyone's assigned duties are and whether reassignments or additions to what is thought to be normal will be considered. Those three elements are structure, management, and culture. Let's talk about structure. What is it? In a larger organization, this covers several things: policies, task project allocation, creation of business departments. In medium to smaller companies, like most of those with which SOAN deals, most likely means who does what and how are they supposed to do it. When we mention structure to a new or prospective medium to small client, we occasionally get the response, "What are you talking about? We all come to work, we do our jobs, and we go home." So therein is where our organization discussion starts. Structure in a medium to small company, while less obvious, is still there. This is as opposed to a larger company where structural things like policies or other procedural items are usually noted in writing. If we required that for a small company, they'd never get around to producing the product. No, these are things that everyone knows and is generally learned through experience on the job. As an example, we worked with a manufacturer of large metal parts, wherein the chief operating officer was directly involved with the production workers, despite having a system of middle managers and lead workers. If there was a quality error, he simply talked to the employee and responsible and admonished him or her not to do it again. As the market deteriorated and quality requirements became more stringent, we advised that change in structure was necessary. The COO was an extremely knowledgeable person, universally known for what was necessary to produce an excellent product. The issue was that he had not passed that on to his middle managers or lead operators, and historically that really wasn't necessary. In their process, one of the first operations fluctuated with different parts, so we assisted them in developing a standardized system, wherein the more complicated parts were done more slowly, the somewhat less complicated parts done a bit faster, and for the more simple parts, speed could be increased even more. A history of quality problems was researched, and several recurring issues surfaced. These were documented and put into a program utilizing simple dashboards. We included pictures showing where and how the problems occurred. Then iPads were installed at all the departmental locations where the people doing the work could check individual parts out before doing the actual work so as to then avoid making the quality errors. The examples were categorized in a system of red, most complicated, proceed slowly; yellow, somewhat less complicated, production rate can be increased a bit; or green, least complicated, and you can accelerate the production rate. The Chief Operating Officer, who is also the main liaison between operations and customers, was able to feel comfortable that quality issues were being properly addressed and then could spend more time on other pressing and more important issues. After a relatively short orientation period, the system began to work and quality problems were cut by a substantial percentage. Moreover, the line of management responsibility and therefore accountability became much more clear. Again, this is only an example just to point out that companies do in fact have policies and procedures. They just don't recognize them as such. Nor do they believe anything needs to be changed, that despite the world may be changing around them. Thus, initially, the policies and procedures of a small company must first be determined. What are they? Who is involved? And how might they need to change in order to get going in the new business conditions? Okay, let's talk a little bit about management. As noted previously, the Sohn Aerospace, as we refer to it, is medium to small companies. Our average company will have between 25 and 200 employees. We do not turn down companies that have more, nor do we turn down those with a lower employee headcount. Interestingly, the smaller the company, the less thought is given to management. Let's look at a company with 10 employees. If we mention the word management to the owner of a small company, in most cases, your response would be, "You're looking at it." Once again, this is where we have to start our analysis. In the company we now reference, the owner of this small company both managed the production floor and was the only person involved in sales. The majority of his time was spent on the production floor, and therefore, when it came to pass that sales dropped off to a fair extent, he was immediately overwhelmed with too much to do. He couldn't possibly put enough time into managing the production and also enough time into selling the product. We've tried to demonstrate this by the width of the lines emanating from the owner to those two areas. Thicker one obviously means he was spending more of his time on that production area. During our analysis, we determined that on the production floor, there was an extremely knowledgeable and dedicated operator. When the new employees were brought on, he was given the task of training them. There was nothing about producing the product he didn't know. Thus, our advice, which the owner followed, which was to promote the operator to shop manager. This enabled the owner to spend almost all his time selling, while the shop manager handled the production. Thus, sales improved dramatically, and the company was on a much more stable footing after approximately 6 months. Another example of a management issue also revolved around the CEO having a number of VP-level departments reporting directly to him. However, also in the reporting line were almost 100 production employees reporting up through 4 managers. There's 2 issues here. First, the issue is span of control. There's a finite number of people that any one manager can effectively cover. This isn't a single all-encompassing number. Rather, it depends on the organization and the requirements of each person to be managed. Excuse me. In this case, the CEO was clearly operating beyond the span of control. Second, there was an issue of qualifications. The The CEO, while having run the company for several years, had an accounting background. This would work fairly well when the company was not challenged by a downturn. It took some time and a number of very delicate and difficult conversations to convince him that he was spread too thin and be better off bringing in a manufacturing vice president. This was eventually done, and the business is now operating more efficiently and profitably. Let's switch now to culture. First, let's define what we're talking about when we use that term. In business school lingo, it refers to the, quote, set of behavioral and procedural norms that can be observed within a company, unquote. If you're trying to absorb that and make some sense of it, let me provide my more basic statement. It's a combination of the company's mission, values, and the rules, morale, and vision as set by the owner or CEO. In most smaller companies, these have not been committed to writing. They are simply things all employees have learned over the years. As with structure and management, that doesn't mean they aren't important. If, for example, there's one employee that is not in tune with what the management and rest of the team, it can be very problematic. They may say disparaging things about management or the processes or equipment, and that can be extremely damaging to the morale of the entire company. That employee must be made aware of the negative impact they are having on other employees, not to mention productivity, and he must change. In larger companies, while some of the values, missions, and rules may be seen in an employee handbook, that doesn't cover all situations. The example I'm about to discuss involves the acquisition of one company by another. After the necessary reductions due mainly to closing operations that produce the same product, the remaining employees numbered over 1,000. We will refer to the two companies as Company A, the acquiring company, and Company B. The CEO of Company A became the CEO of the new company. These were two companies that had fought tooth and nail for nearly 7 decades for the business, which was international in nature. Companies in both Eastern and Western Europe, as well as South America, had sprung up over the years, making the worldwide competitive situation much more difficult. In the following slides, we have shown the companies in different colors for apparent reasons. There was a strong antagonistic feeling by employees of both companies A and B toward each other. That made the job of the CEO much more difficult, especially in the area of morale and individual effectiveness. The actions taken by the CEO were critical in developing a cultural change. The first thing done was to change the company name. The decision was made not to utilize either A or B names, nor to manufacture any combination of those. Moreover, as the new company became the largest U.S. producer, the decision was made to include some reference to the U.S. or America, and just for this purpose of discussion, we'll simply call the company XYZ. The effort here was to give everyone the understanding that this was a brand new company with new values and a new, more internationally oriented mission. The second was to avoid using all Company A executives and eliminate Company B execs, as you can see in the slide noted by the different colors. As you may have noted in viewing other acquisitions, the acquiring company many times just uses all their own executives and terminates those from the acquired company. Given the antipathy of the two companies for each other, this would have been disastrous. The third thing done was to initiate a bonus system for all salaried employees based on the success of XYZ. Thus, no longer did people say, "This isn't what we used to do." The concern became, how is XYZ doing this quarter? This was also initiated in bargaining with the company's union. A system of bonuses then also became part of the new union contract. These and other smaller changes became effective within the first year. However, it still took a full 2 years before the old antagonisms finally disappeared Sales improved dramatically, and due to rationalization of overlapping facilities, a 20% smaller workforce produced 15% more product at higher margins. Sown is a statewide organization. As shown on the slide, there are 6 of us, all with turnaround experience. Even if you just want to talk and get a better idea whether we can help you, please just give us a call. The way I generally put it is, and this is a much overused situation, and that is people are looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes they see that light, only to find out later it's an oncoming train. Sown will help you find out which it is. If it's an oncoming train, we'll get you to change tracks. If it truly is the light at the end of the tunnel, we'll help you get there faster. Thanks for your time today, and we hope to hear from you.